What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk Talk Punch. I am Brody, joined by Tudong Dylan
Hey.
and the Jack Tripper of our Threes company, Charlie Hickman.
All
right. No misunderstanding that. Thank you.
That's right. Oh, that's
Thank you guys so much for joining us. While you're here, we'd love to interact with you, so make sure you comment down. Just remember, nice about it. And then whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening in on the audio version of the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you go ahead and hit that thumbs up or the star rating or whatever you click and subscribe. Dylan is going to come to your house. He's going to reverse all of your. So right now it's winter time. You should have your ceiling fan so they're putting air up. He's going to turn the air down. You're going to be freezing at night. Tell you.
freezing cold.
Freezing cold. All right, and then you can come back here every Wednesday to see what we're talking about. Kind of like this week's topic. We are doing our top 3 80s sitcoms. This list are for these guys. I had a hard time with this list. I'm the only one that was actually born in the 80s, so I wasn't that old when these shows came out.
That's a good point.
How do you guys feel? You guys were excited to do this one, and I know some of this thing on your list.
So look, the 80s. Look, it's not about what you know, bro. It's certainly not about when you were born. I think it's a convenient excuse to say it was before my time, which most things are before your time. It's and we kind of pick and choose. With the band the Beatles were before my time, but I'm aware of the Beatles. You've heard of Beethoven. He was long before our time. Shakespeare, a little guy named Shakespeare, before our time. So so much of what we know and is just kind of what we're introduced to and when we're introduced to it. And most of my shows, I don't know because of the 80s. I know because of Nick at Night and DVD and then now streaming. So I'm just saying, if you're old like us, then there'll be some nostalgia in this. But if you're young and you don't know these shows, a lot of them are going to be streaming, and they might be fun for some nostalgia, just to see what to get in the time capsule, see what life was like in the 80s.
And to quote Charlie, these shows are the equivalent of the Beatles and Beethoven.
That's right.
Did you know he had that?
He puts it on his Christmas tree every year. It's horrifying.
Well, I also send a picture of my kids holding it up. Normally they stick their tongue out or something like that. I send them a picture every year. It's like it's a Christmas tradition.
Look, I will say that the equivalent of watching today in the year 2022 of watching a show from 1980, which was, for those of you keeping score mathematically at home, 42 years ago, is like it's like the equivalent of watching a television show from 1944 in the year 1980. So these are old shows. I had to look up. I had to make sure that TV was even invented in 1944. We're going in the Wayback Machine. So these are some old shows. None of them are in black and white, but with some grace, a lot of the content, I'm sure, probably hasn't held up, nor should it. After 40 years, hopefully we've evolved some as a society, but still some fun TV shows I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about. Curious to see what your list is, bro. Probably going to all be shows that debuted in 1989.
No, I actually set rules for myself. Okay, I actually did. And
what were the rules?
I probably made this list way harder on myself. If this was a show that came out in like even the late 80s, right? And I'm like an 8. But I primarily watched it in the 90s. It didn't really.
Wow.
There's one show that's kind of on the edge.
Okay. Yeah, you definitely made it harder on yourself. So that's
What was that? Were there any other rules or?
No rules.
That was your only.
The only rule is no rules.
Because if it's a show that went from like 1989 through 1999, and I pretty much watched it from 1995 till 1999, can I really count that as an 80s sitcom?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I didn't put Seinfeld on my list, even though it debuted in like '88, just because that feels like such a quintessential '90s show.
Yeah.
But But there are shows that I didn't know existed until the 90s that were from the 80s that I discovered on the glorious Nick at Night. What a joyous network. We'll talk more though. Who's starting us off?
Okay, so we are gonna go myself, then Dylan, Charlie.
Hey, I know those guys. All right, let's do it.
Grab
Stop
that.
going. There we go. All right. Now, question: do you guys think there's going to be any crossovers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Think so?
I would be be
Well-
surprised. I would absolutely flabbergasted if Dylan and I don't have at least one crossover, and I wouldn't be shocked if all three of us had one.
Yeah, I think you two will have. That's not because mine are so much better. All right.
Have
Well,
such a refined
my
taste. All right,
my
Pinky's out,
number
Brody.
three.
What's your
My
show?
number three. I'm not sure how I found this show. I'm not sure how I started watching this show. It must have been on some sort of syndication. It's not a super old show, but somehow I have memories of watching this show whenever I could. And that's Night Court.
Oh, that's good.
And this went
This,
from like
this is a super old show, bro. This is we're almost 40. It's almost 40. It's 38 years old.
when did this come out? When did this start?
84.
80. Okay, that's pretty old. For some reason I was thinking it was like an 8.
But go on, preach it, brother. It's a great show.
So I don't remember how I started watching. It must have just been on TV, like in the afternoon or something like that. And I stumbled across it, and I just remember really liking this show as like a 7 or 8 year old. I'm sure a ton of the jokes just flew right over my head. John Lorcat, I know was like the flirty guy with all the ladies. And so I'm sure I didn't pick up on any of that stuff, but it was just this silly show, and I always got excited to watch it. And like I said, I don't have like, I couldn't tell you like a specific episode that I'm like, oh man, I loved this episode. I just remember like,
Anytime Mel Torme showed up, because Harry Anderson, well, at least the judge Harry loved Mel Torme.
I don't remember any specifics, but I remember really liking this. And so when I was kind of doing my research for this, I was like, man, I remember really liking that. So made it onto my list. Number 3, Night Court.
Night Court.
Right.
All right, Dylan, I believe you're second.
Well, the world don't move to the beat of just one drum.
Ah,
You're right for you may not be right for some. That's different strokes, folks. Different strokes move the world. Yes, it does. 1978 to 1986, starring Gary Coleman, Arnold, I guess soon to be Drummond, Todd Bridges, Conrad Bain, Dana Plato, and Charlotte Ray, by the way, who started off Mrs. Garrett in this and then went to the Facts of Life. When I was a kid, my brother and I watched this show all the time. We loved it. There were like a lot of episodes, there were a lot of seasons, and they went through a lot of different, I don't want to say versions, but they had a lot of several different additions, iterations, whatever have you. But what you talking about, Willis?
Talk about
Basically, you'll see, as you see on the poster right here, and it was like flabbergasting at the time, because this older white guy who's got like a teenage daughter. I had forgotten that it was like their maid or something like that passed away, and she had 2 kids, and so he adopted the 2 kids. And shocker, because it was the 80s, they're black. A white guy with 2 black kids, it's shocking. It's never been done before. Even back then, I was like, why are people so surprised? Like, it doesn't, it makes sense, so it's not flabbergasting or anything like that. Come on. But everybody thought it was kind of an odd thing. But hey, you know what? You had lightning in a bottle, because all these people with their characters and their talent and the messages that they were trying to send out, it was a fun show. And the family, we all gathered and we watched it. Lots and lots of fun. You guys ever see this show?
yes.
Come on,
what season was the redhead stepchild added?
Oh. I was actually just thinking about that. We was all like Mr. D, and I'm like, oh
I have weird flashes of some of these 80s. As I was thinking through my list because there are shows like this that I watched as a kid but have not watched since. And I have like weird flashes of like there was a steroid episode which was like,
there was like
Hector, maybe Hector Elizondo or not Hector Elizondo. Oh my gosh, maybe Lou Ferrigno or someone. No, Lyle Alzano, something like that. It was like
Lyle
a bodybuilder.
Zato,
And there's like a whole not the guy from the Princess Diaries, but the other guy. And there was like a very special episode, like where they had like the warning, there's before and this. So I have these weird flashes. Not, by the way, I don't know what kind of Alan Thicke wrote the theme song, so that little bit of trivia, and then also it was just all the children actors, the poor children actors from that show. That was a cursed set. My goodness.
I hope it was a better set, and they just like were partying some other place, because out of all the people who are on this particular poster, the only one still alive is Todd Bridges. Everybody else has passed away, but I mean, like Dana Plato, the saddest. But I mean, either way, this is one of those I haven't revisited. I haven't seen it on streaming, but when I was a kid, we loved it. We always watch it, and I try to put myself kind of back there and be like, what I really want to see when I was like a kid in the 80s.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of them. I have not revisited, but
no, that's good.
I remember that.
You should revisit it. Go binge it. Give us a review.
All right, yeah, we'll give it.
Is it streaming anywhere?
That's a good question. I don't know, but if it is, we'll have the Dylan Different Strokes challenge and see. I want you to watch every episode, and then I want like a special podcast of you just reviewing every Different Strokes episode. So.
Everyone.
I'll be like,
it'll be called, what you talking about, Tudong, and it'll be
ooh, I like it.
A gift to the world for Christmas.
Wow.
Branding.
Folks, kindly comment down below if you would be interested in that, and I would be flabbergasted.
Yeah, if we get 3 comments for Dylan to do it, he's got to do it. Just 3. That's all we need.
In his contract.
It's in
his contract. Yeah, if there's 3.
So,
Charlie,
Brody, you weren't sure if there'd be any crossovers with your fancy hoity-toity list, but check out my number 3 because, bam, right off the bat, we already got a crossover.
Same number 3 even. The same
Night
number.
Court. Yeah, this was a show that I caught in bits and pieces as a child. So allow me to pontificate a little bit. If you're a younger person watching this, you're growing up in a world where you have so much content curation, right? So adults can kind of watch things in their own time. There's lots of great family programming, and there's devices available like iPads and laptops, so you can separate the entertainment as well. But as a kid growing up, you had like one TV in a house, and whatever was on was on. So if my parents wanted to watch a TV show, that was the TV show. And so we watched a lot of just sitcoms in the background in the 80s. And this was one that I just kind of caught as a kid, and then in reruns and syndication and stuff like that. And just fell in love with it. It's a great show. It almost didn't even get made in 1980, like in 1984, like in 83, they filmed the pilot. They were worried that Harry Anderson didn't have enough acting experience. And so literally it took like 4 shows getting canceled, like boom, like in succession, like all these new shows failing for them to even put it on the air. And then it became a huge hit. And it's a really, really fun show. A lot of like a great cast, very talented, very funny actors. We lost Marky Post last year, sadly. But and Harry Anderson a few years before that, but just a really talented cast. A lot of fun. It's just a fun setup. The idea of Night Court in the 80s, where you get just a really bright, colorful, cast of characters, and it's a neat like little setup for some gags and funny things. But they had a perfect finale, season 8, a beautiful finale. And the show was supposed to be done, and then that season it ended. They decided to bring it back for season 9 and absolutely ruined it. Horrible season 9 with a terrible ending. So bad, in fact, that in the show 30 Rock, one of the cast members reunites the cast of Night Court, at least whoever was available, no John Larroquette, to come on the show to film a Night Court finale. Like a better Night Court finale that the character Kenneth had written. So if you like Night Court, you've never seen 30 Rock, season 3, episode 3. It's a great little episode within an episode. If you're a Night Court fan, or if you're a 30 Rock fan and you saw that, check out Night Court. It is streaming on Amazon Prime, free with ads. So I know. So if you're nostalgic for the 80s, you're nostalgic for ads.
Oh, that's
Why
true.
not?
bro. They call them
Commercial breaks. Commercial breaks.
Why not?
right.
Experience
Well,
it
Charlie-
as we did.
Charlie, this is a great pick.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
All right. Number 2. My number 2. Yes. This is the one that was kind of on the edge, but watching it in the 80s. And then also watched it. But I remember watching it in the 80s. That's what matters. And that's Full House. Makes you feel good. It makes you feel good. And what a feel good show. So it's just this big family living in a house. You know, you had cool
Full House.
Uncle Jesse. You had funny
Uncle
Uncle Danny. Right? That was his name?
No, he wasn't an uncle because he was the dad.
Uncle Joey.
No, Joey. Danny was the dad. Joey was the
and Uncle
funny.
Jesse.
And Uncle Jesse.
Yeah, and so you know, you just had like just funny moments. There was always hijinks going on because there was all these people. And then as the show went on, they somehow fit more people in the house. Uncle Jesse's wife like moved in also, and then they started having all these. It was a full house. No wonder I like having so many people in my house. Maybe it just takes me back, makes me feel like I have a full house. What I did there.
I
see it.
Yeah, I remember as a kid really enjoying this. It was funny. Good time.
Yeah.
Now, have you watched Fuller House? Which
I
is that
haven't.
is that Netflix?
Yeah, I think that's on Netflix, and I don't have Netflix. Not partaken in our house. I don't know. I enjoyed this when I was a kid. Would I have watched this show if I was a 40-year-old man right now? Not. But you know what?
Did you
As a kid, I really enjoyed it. What, Dylan?
I was wondering if Charlie saw Fuller House.
Oh, no.
Yeah, neither of them. Yeah.
My kids might like.
They might. I wonder. I'm sure it's kind of sad with the passing of Bob Saget. I'm not sure how they handled that on the show, but I'm sure they had some emotional episodes.
But there you go. There's my number 2. I liked it as a kid, and it came out in the 80s. I watched it in the 80s. Number 2.
There you go.
Nice.
All right, Tudon, what you got?
My number 2, I went back and forth, but I had to go with Perfect Strangers.
I almost put Perfect Strangers.
I love Perfect Strangers. I loved it growing up. That was one the whole family would come and watch from 87 to 93. Bronson Pinchot is Balki Bartakamos.
Balki.
Yeah, Mark Lynn Baker is Larry Appleton, and he's on She-Hulk. He plays the dad. And you know what? I actually messaged him on Facebook. It's so humiliating. He never looked at it or anything. I saw him on Facebook. I'm like, it can't be the same guy. It can't. And he was there. It was actually him. And I'm like, I got to do it. I don't know why. I have to do it.
What did you say?
I just said that.
Did you say, hey, I know we're perfect strangers, but I just wanted to say hi?
I almost actually did that. I just told him that Perfect Strangers came back on Hulu, and I was like, wow, all right, I'll revisit this. And it was surprisingly emotional. Like, I loved it as a kid, and I showed my wife some of this, and she actually really enjoyed it. And for some reason, I was really happy that she was like watching it. And I'm like, I'm this adult, this married person who watched this as a kid. And I remember as a kid being like, I wonder if I'm going to like watch this, as a grown up, the wife. And I'm like, not on anymore. I don't know how I'll see it, and then actually getting to do it. And so I actually typed that to him. I'm like, I got to do this. And like, you were a contributing factor, the entertainment in my childhood. And I just wanted to say thanks. And like I said, I never heard back. But fantastic TV show, folks. It's another take on The Odd Couple, and it is full of absolute heart. They're cousins, and Balki comes from, Mypos. It's like a Greek island. And Larry's this uptight, business-driven individual who's terrible at business. And for some reason, he wants to be a reporter in like the 3rd season or something. I don't know, but their chemistry is unbelievable. Melanie Wilson played Jennifer, and is that Rebecca? Rebecca Arthur played Marianne. Their love interests, and they were all on the maybe not in every single episode, but I thought it was fantastic. I loved it, and lovely 80s nostalgia. 80s. I thought I said 90s for a second. No, I don't know. It's 80s.
my wife and I did the Black Friday deal for Paramount Plus. So we've been watching a sitcom on there called Ghosts, which is very funny. And Mark Lynn Baker makes an appearance on there as like a very small side character. And I got really excited, and he came to the door, and I was like, "Oh, look at them! They're perfect strangers." And I look at my wife like, and she just she's just blinking at me. She has no you're saying normal words, but you're looking at me like they're supposed to mean something other than what you're saying. I'm like the show Perfect Strangers, and she's like, "No, I that doesn't exist. That's not a thing that exists in the world." So. Yeah. All right, we're old and for shame. So, but yeah, good show, good choice.
My wife's young. She watched it. It was good. I was really, I don't know, so happy she
it's
watched
on me.
it.
I have not shown it to her. That is my fault. That's on me.
And speaking of on you, now it's your number 2.
All right. Now my number 2 is a show that technically debuted in the 70s, but it is such a good show, and it had three delightful seasons in the 80s from 78 to 85. This is one that I didn't discover until watching Nick at Night in the early 90s. So, look, I've always been a bit of an insomniac, even as a child. And so, even when I was in elementary school, it was mostly the late nights, midnights, and 1 a.m.s. And around that time, once I was, I no longer had a bedroom, so I was sleeping on a couch in a room that had a television. It became very easy to just pop on TV at all times of the night and or day. And so I started watching, a lot of black and white, like Dobie Gillis and Gilligan's Island and all these crazy weird shows that were probably recent to the year that I was watching. And so finally, as the 90s rolled in from we rolled the calendar from the 80s to the 90s, we started getting some more recent shows like the 1978 classic Taxi, which was just filled with an incredible cast of delightful actors and actresses and characters. I loved it, and it was instantly funny to me and weighty at times. It had some heavier dealt with issues. This was written originally by the Charles brothers, who went on to do Cheers, and James Burrows, who also went on to direct a ton of TV, including Cheers and a lot of other wonderful shows, Friends, and some other things. But just what a cast! You got Danny DeVito. Can I interest you in the immensely talented Christopher Lloyd chewing scenery like Pac-Man whenever he enters? If you guys want to get lost in a rabbit trail for a while, do some research on Andy Kaufman, who is just the most enigmatic character. What an interesting. I'm just going to use the word interesting human being. And you can watch the 1999 movie Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey portraying the role, which is also renewed my love for Taxi, because they got a bunch of the actors from the movie when I saw that in the theaters, and I went home and I started buying Taxi on DVD and watched it all over again. So I think this one holds up pretty well. Like, as far as it's an entertaining show. The first 4 seasons you can find on Paramount Plus, although it did switch from CBS to NBC in the 5th season. And Peacock does not carry the 5th season, so the 5th season just doesn't exist. So that's all right. But Judd Hirsch, Mary Lou Henner, Tony Danza, who's the boss? Forget about it. Thank you very much. Carol Kane, Rhea Perlman makes a lot of appearances. It's a great show. If you're ever feeling a little bit nostalgic and you end up with a little Paramount Plus action, I highly recommend checking it out. But maybe skip around. But season 2 is when Christopher Lloyd becomes a regular, and he is. Oh, he is amazing. He's always, Reverend Jim McCloskey, and he's like, oh my gosh. Oh. He's fantastic and just hilarious, and you will laugh. I promise. I guarantee it.
Danny DeVito, every time Danny DeVito was like, Latka. Fix a taxi, Latka. Well, that was great.
Not Andy Kaufman, not popular on set. You read about Tony Clifton. Oh my gosh. It's so bizarre. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Just go read it.
I read a biography on him, and it's unbelievable. Watching some of the stuff that he did, like there's a special that he did. A lot of that stuff is nuts.
Yeah, and it's and sad. He died so young. Really, really disappointing. But yeah,
I never saw this
good show. Bro, do yourself a favor. Check it out. Put it in the queue. I know you just bought Hulu, so I know you're catching up on a lot of stuff.
Hulu and
This-
Apple. And
This used to be on Hulu. You could have watched it on Hulu, but you blew it. You just got it now. So.
you kept telling me to buy Hulu, so I got Hulu.
I know, but I'm just saying, if you'd gotten Hulu when I first told you to get Hulu, you could have watched Taxi on Hulu. Anyway, good stuff.
All right.
All right, bro. What's your number one? Drop it on.
Number ones. No, these are number one. Either one of you have. Because I think I know what both of you.
Why don't you tell us what our number are?
My number one. I'll predict you guys' number ones when it's your turn, doggone it. My number one just feels so 80s. It feels like such an 80s show. And I remember this was one that I actually remember watching with my family. The other ones I feel like I kind of stumbled upon. But this one I actually remember watching as a family. And this was a cultural phenomenon. And that is Alf. And I remember
a cultural phenomenon. I thought it was gonna be Mr. Belvedere, but Alf's good too.
Oh, okay. I actually had Mr. Belvedere as my number 3.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you real quick, but the days before the internet, when everyone thought Marilyn Manson was the kid from Mr. Belvedere, I don't know how rumors spread so far and wide before the internet, but my goodness, that was such a classic.
Wesley. But Alf, man,
kid.
we've got this Muppet. He's an alien from outer space, and he crashes in this family's home and then just lives there. And he wants to eat their cat all the time. And there's hijinks that ensue because you've got this furry puppet alien living with. Oh, it was funny. I'm pretty sure I had an Alf like stuffed animal. This Alf was cool, and it's wild how popular this little puppet guy was.
He was cute.
This was great. I have no idea when this started. I have no idea when it ended. I don't know how long it went on for. I know that it was really popular though. So,
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was one of those like, we got like 3 seasons.
It was like I think 86 to 1990.
Okay.
This show is famous for the finale. I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the finale here in a second.
The finale. Oh yes, the finale, which like they like the ultimate cliffhanger, and then he gets abducted, and they like by the government, and then they take him away, and then we just never know what happens. Sorry if that's a spoiler. If anybody saw our episode, like I need to go watch this.
No, if anything, it saves them the trouble. Don't if you watch Alf for some reason, I don't know if it exists anywhere, but don't watch the finale. Don't watch the beloved alien be taken away by the government, only to, I'm sure, be dissected, hanging in Area 51 museum or basement somewhere.
Yeah, and then the show's just done. Like it never
over.
comes back. It never comes back. Oh man.
Wasn't there like a special that they did that like he was playing cards the entire time, and then he finally decides to escape or something like that, and he gets back? I could have sworn there was something like that.
Oh,
Maybe.
I don't know.
I think there was a cartoon I think that debuted after this, right?
What's a cartoon? I know that.
I'll look it up.
What a strange show. I like
Willie.
Oh no, I guess the cartoon was 87 to 89, so it was in the middle of that.
Okay.
Gordon Shumway is from outer space, but there ain't no one like you in the Mamakian race.
And I think he played the saxophone, didn't he?
Oh yeah. Oh, Alf was very talented.
Alf was very
I haven't seen him in a lot of things lately, but very, very talented actor. I hope he got work. He had a very unique look.
So there you go. There's my number one, Alf.
That's a
I have
good
no
one.
idea if it's streaming anywhere. All right. Tudong, what's your number one, man?
Why don't you tell me what you think my number one is?
Oh, that's right. I was going to do that. Your number one is Cheers.
But let me tell you something, bro.
I forgot about Cheers.
You forgot
You
about
were right.
Cheers.
It is Cheers.
I forgot about Cheers.
Did you really forget about Cheers, Charlie?
How'd you forget
Oh man,
Cheers?
this is embarrassing. All right,
Velvet.
I got a
You got-
fraudulent number one. Let's go ahead and do yours, Tom.
1982 to 1993, you got Ted Danson, Rhea Perlman, we just heard about from Taxi, John Ratzenberger from every single, but not DreamWorks, but Pixar movie. George Wendt, Kelsey Grammer, season 3. I love them, like that guy still do. Woody Harrelson, Kirstie Alley, Shelley Long, Bebe Neuwirth, Nicholas Colasanto, who was also in Raging Bull. He passed away sadly by season 4. No, season 5, because Woody was introduced in season 5. That's right. Yeah, so lowly bartender meets quote unquote pseudo intellectual, and there's a cast of wacky characters. It scored like dead last when it debuted, and then it shot up to number 1 like a phoenix from the flames of disaster. This is one of those, and for some reason it's only up to season 4 on Hulu right now. I don't know why they did that, but is it on Peacock? Is that what they did? Did they take some of it to Peacock or something? Anyways, the point is,
Oh, Bing it.
Bing it, bro.
Oh, Bing it. Jeez. Fantastic show, fantastic cast, fantastic writing, especially in the sense that it went for 11 seasons, and then it went and then Frasier went for 11 more. And I mean, and they also were in Frasier, of course, at different times and different seasons. But this is definitely one that is we like the whole thing we had watched, like when it first even started, to when Frasier got there in season 3. I still remember, like I know I said this when I did the Frasier one, but being in the same room and thinking back to when I was a kid, seeing him in season 3, that was like 85. Jeez, that was so long ago. Third grade or something like that, and I'm watching this and I'm remembering that when I see him, and I'm like, we're in technically the same room because he's on the stage, and it brings you back to that kind of thing. It's touching, and it is funny, and it is like all sorts of different shenanigans and different. Sometimes the will they, won't they can get a little. It's definitely no longer one of those like Sam Malone's. Hey, you know what? He evolved as a character, and he started off as always a good friend, but not exactly very good to women, and he evolved. But before that, it was the 80s, and apparently it was okay for some reason. And you watch it, and sometimes you're like, what happened? But yeah, you know what? A lot of the times people learn lessons. So it's not just for anything's sake. You learn and you grow, and you hopefully you change for the better. I don't know. Everybody knows your name, and sometimes you want to go.
So all 11 seasons are on Peacock.
Really?
Gotta get Peacock, Tudong.
Well, Peacock's free if you don't mind some ads, or you can upgrade to the premium for like $5. Talk Punch brought to you by Peacock. So, all right. Well, shamefully, Brody would go ahead and pull up my number 1.
Okay. Well, I gotta guess it. Okay. So when did Cheers end?
93.
And Cheers Charlie, Cheers would have been my guess for your number. Cheers isn't your number.
Well, just pull it. You're not going to guess it.
Is it Frasier? Did Frasier start in the 80s?
No. That was in the 90s.
90s. I think it's Three's Company.
Yeah, you guys aren't going to get it. Don't worry about it. My number 1 is Cheers.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. A misdirection. Smoke and mirrors.
Can't do that to me. You make me look like a dummy.
No, you're smart. You already guessed it. I wanted to create false suspense. Love Cheers. Love Cheers. I can never forget about Cheers because it's there's a sensation that happens when I see an episode, regardless of the quality of the episode, regardless of what episode it is. There's like a time capsule effect when an episode of Cheers is on, whether I'm watching it like watching it or just it's on in a background somewhere, where I get feelings of like a simple time of my childhood. And I didn't have a very simple childhood, but there was a pocket. Where things were kind of simple. And 83, 84, 85, there was a little pocket. A fresh young family moved from Hawaii out to the mainland here in California. and boy did my parents like some Cheers. And so it was simpler times. And so I just have there's a deep nostalgic connection to the show. And at different phases of my life, I've made it a point to sit people down and show them DVDs and watch episodes with this. My wife has watched through I think all 11 seasons. What a trooper! And in the history, in the course of our relationship, because she loved it. She watched it even without me. It was great. I think if she's watching this, she can fact check me later. But and I picked this particular GIF because Kirstie Alley passed away today.
What?
I saw she died from cancer. So she's 71 years young and passed away. So just an extra kind of poignant exclamation point at the end of this particular episode. She was obviously I think a terrific replacement for Shelley Long, and just what a hard coming in with all the Sam and Diane, and just like the kind of cultural touchstone that became for her to be able to come in and just carve out a completely unique role for herself and divide. It's like people who argue Van Halen singers, David Lee Roth versus Sammy Hagar, or there's like two different versions of the same thing with different kind of these leading ladies on how they kind of created a different feel for the show. And so it was a really well done show, and I think like for a show that existed at the time period that it existed, there's some pretty enlightened episodes. I think that still kind of hold up pretty well. And it was almost canceled. There's an alternate universe where Frasier doesn't exist, where Cheers doesn't exist. Like I ran the first season, it was not a success. Yeah. Low ratings. Brandon Tartikoff, the head of the network, was like a champion of the show. He thought it was great. He pushed, let's keep it on, and the audience just grew and grew, and it turned into a juggernaut. To the point where they wanted to, Ted Danson was like, I'm on out after season 11, and they wanted to keep it going with Woody running the bar, and Woody Harrelson's like, nah. So they ended the show then. Two incredibly successful spinoffs. One with Frasier, and then the other, the Tortellis, which ran a total of 13 episodes in 1986.
Wings was a spinoff, right?
Yeah, it wasn't a spinoff. It just had it existed in the same universe. So it was like but yeah, they had characters show up and do different things on Wings. Wings was a fun show too. But anyway, great show. Definitely worth watching. If you're like Brody and you're thinking, man, I can't commit to 11 seasons of a television show.
You can look up episodes a season, Charlie.
You can look up a best episode guide, walk your way through, I'm sure there's a nice 10 to 15, 20 episodes. You could look up the 20 greatest Cheers episodes of all time. If you can't find anything, or you just don't trust the internet, come to us. I will curate for you the 20 best episodes of Cheers to get you started. And that is my solemn oath to you. Just leave it in the comments if you just want to get started, but you're not sure where. Cheers. Wherever, greatest theme song of all time, by the way. I will not. There's no debate.
Honorable besides Three's Company, or
Three's Company's a terrible theme song.
No, not the theme song. I was going to put Three's Company on my list. That was going to be. Sure. Although I did talk about miscommunications, misunderstandings in the one of our past episodes, and I was like, maybe it'd be ironic if I did that, but these other ones kind of won out. But I gotta say, Three's Company, like when you mentioned Jack Tripper, I was like, yep, that's the stuff.
Have either of you guys ever watched an episode of something called It's the Gary Shanley Show? It was ran 5 seasons, I think. I can barely remember the show. It doesn't exist on any streaming network, but I have every word of the theme song memorized. Like a lot of 80s TV shows, I have the theme songs ping-ponging around in my brain because music just really stuck in my mind as a kid. But it is one of the most catchy, and the whole, this is the theme to Gary Show, the opening theme to Gary Show. Gary called me up and asked if I would write the theme song. It's almost halfway finished. How do you like it so? And the whole thing was just it's such a weird, and the whole show is they're breaking the fourth wall. They're making fun of the set because it's flimsy pieces of cardboard and stuff. The whole thing was just such a weird, and I can't remember what is real and what my brain is just filling in gaps. They did an episode where they were doing alliteration. It was 9 G words in a row, and I feel like that existed, but I don't know if it existed. But then I have a memory of me as a kid trying to figure out the longest sentences I could do in a row with G words. I don't know. But if anybody has access to the Gary Shandling show out there, drop us a link. Send it over. I don't know. I don't think it exists. I think it's wiped from the face of the earth. But Gary Shandling's a national treasure, and I think I would like to watch that again to see what is real and what is my brain invented.
I
That one.
watch that. That's
We're
a fun.
almost to the part where I start to whistle, and we'll watch this Gary Shandling show.
All right. You guys have anything else to add to this? We went a little bit longer on
Well, we have nostalgia for it, bro. Even you do.
Well, you don't have to be a child of the 80s, the 90s, or the 2000s to know how to hit that like and subscribe button. It's an all ages, all access pass to more content. Right below here, you can find more videos like this. Come on some nostalgic journeys with your friends at Talk Talk Bunch. Make sure you do click that like and subscribe below that beautiful beard, and we will look forward to seeing you next time. And if there was a list of our top favorite audience members, you would be number one.
All right. Later.